What's up, guys? Daddy Buzzkill here. Got Precious Robot.
Shadow,
what's up, man? Welcome to StreamBeanz number 2. This is the second attempt tonight. We're talking about existence. I think we have our stuff figured out, so we can actually jump right into it. What are we playing tonight?
We're playing some Blade and Sorcery VR. That's our problem tonight. VR is no joke setting up.
Yep. So hopefully this was all worth it, because...
Oh, yeah.
What's my center like?
Cool.
Can you see the stream, Robot? Tell me what I look like on the thing.
Looks good to me.
I gotta get my... Ah!
Your hands look funny. Oh, man. So, yeah, this should be fun. I'm excited.
Fuck that stupid sword. What the hell? I want my hat. There we go.
Is that it?
Oh. The fuck? That ain't my hat. Get down with your bad self. Ain't this neat? Look. Okay.
Alrighty. So, what do you have to do first? You have to get weapons?
I can do that. But you can talk, man, while I go do that.
Alright. So, I have a list of 9 questions here I'm going to ask. And either you guys can chime in, let me know what you think. Anybody at home wants to chime in as well, that'd be super awesome. The first question I have here is probably the deepest question there is. What is existence? What does it mean to exist?
To be here.
To be here, exactly. Put in like the plainest terms possible. We're here. Why do you think we're here, Buzzkill?
That's a good question. Could be. I mean, one side tells me it's an accident, but there's too much of a lot of things that are coincidental. See, Trent?
Yep. So, dictionary defines existence as the fact or state of living or having objective reality. And Wikipedia says existence is an ontological, empirically observable property of being, referring to the ability of an entity to directly or indirectly interact with reality. So, a being, animals, everything that you see around you exists. The universe, it exists. That's the what's the word? Layman's terms, I guess you could say, of what existence is and what it means to exist.
Should I drop my weapon, Robot, Trent, and bring this with me?
Nah, bro, it's right across the room. You don't need it.
Oh.
Or just drop it.
What do you honestly believe existence is, Robot, in your opinion? What do you think?
Well, I mean, like, pretty much like Trent said, it's like to be here. I mean, existence is living every day. And, like, everyone, I mean, each religion and each, type of worldview has a different meaning for what could be the reason we're here, you know?
Yeah.
And for me personally, I have no idea, and I don't claim to know. I like reading about it. I think it's a super interesting topic, but hopefully we can get some good discussion in here on
I
it.
believe nobody will ever know. There's not one person with the answers.
See, and that's honestly what I believe too. I mean, I think it's possible that, us as humans, we're not even capable of understanding. I think it's like trying to explain how a computer works to a dog. It's like their brains are limited by their logic and their evolutionary place in history, just like we are.
Yeah, you can't teach
To
an old
an
dog
extent,
new
yeah.
tricks.
Exactly. Oh man, I'm ready for some fighting.
Oh, there's not gonna be. There's just gonna be some straight killing. Hey, is
Straight
Clayton here?
killing. What's up?
Is Clayton here?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Text him and tell him to come back. But Clayton, get up in here.
I don't
All right,
think
I'm
I
gonna
have
do
his
some.
number.
Ah,
Or no, I do, but-
Quit. What?
What? Somewhere.
Okay, I'm doing some meaningless killing. You ready?
Oh, I'm excited. Let's do it. Oh man, I'm super
Ow!
jealous.
Somebody stabbed me in the ass. What the hell, lady?
So, do you know what causality is? Have you heard of causality before?
No.
So, causality pretty much means that everything, like,
Sorry,
it's
that guy just killed himself.
pretty much it says that everything that's happening has like cause. There's like a cause for it. It's like cause and effect. So everything that's happening right now in this moment, millions and millions of things have had to happen to cause like you to be sitting there playing VR. Like someone had to invent VR. You know, someone had to create the floor plans for your house and like even go as far back as, you know, our ancestors back when we were still, more or less primates, you know, we had to evolve and break off from that chain. So that's kind of what causality means a little bit.
But is that like the same thing as fate? Like it's written, you can't change it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the time travel paradox a little bit. You know, when you go back in time and change something, it could change your whole future. But some people speculate that, you know, things are fate and no matter what, it's kind of like what's that movie, Final Destination? You know, death is gonna find you. I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in that, but I think it's, you know, something worth talking about. It's definitely interesting. It's kind of like also like evolution. Like evolution is causality because, you know, slight variations in your genetics like lead you up to, you know, this conscious, living, breathing human that we are now. And I think it brings, I think that also begs for another question, which is, can causality be explained by God or deity type belief? So if you do believe in evolution and you do believe in the small changes, you know, eventually leading up to bigger changes, is there room for God in that kind of explanation of things?
That's a tough question, for real.
I mean, I know some people say that God is like, you know, he's the reason, like that's like he started, like he's the beginning of the whole process of evolution, and you know he seeded it there, and we've just, you know, gone how he planned for us to go, pretty much.
But he also invented Adam and Eve, who were just human. Right off the bat, poof, he pooped them out.
Yeah, and like, I mean, that could even be like a metaphor for, you know, planting the seeds and then the seeds having, you know, kind of like a mind of their own, almost like, you know, we do like experiments and stuff now where we expect one thing but something else happens. You know, the universe is unpredictable.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really know. You know, I mean, that kind of leads into like quantum theory and stuff that says, you know, like matter and atoms and stuff, they kind of react differently whether or not somebody's observing them. A lot of deep topics here. We weren't right into it though, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we're balls deep.
Buzzkill, what are you doing right now?
Killing people.
You're in a VR world, killing people. Oh man, I love it. Have you ever heard of Alan Watts?
No.
I haven't.
So Alan Watts, he's a philosopher from the 70s. He's no longer alive, but he was a really big. He was a teacher of philosophy, and he had several lectures kind of discussing. He kind of talked about the Tao and the Zen and like the Buddha way of belief and their kind of belief, and they're like the meaning of life to them are. So this is an Alan Watts quote. It says, "The meaning of life is just to be alive. The meaning of life is to just be alive. It's so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves." So what he's pretty much saying is that, just being alive is the reason.
Don't overthink
That's
it.
the reason we're alive. Exactly. And I think that's, I think there's a lot of, kind of credence to that, especially with like Buddhist ways of thinking and stuff. There's a lot of, living in the moment. That's kind of like the meaning of it all. Just live in the moment and accept things how they are. Worrying and thinking ahead too much is only gonna, really cause you pain and trouble in the long term.
Yeah. You bust yourself in the head.
All right, Trent, you take over. Robot, now I can hear you a little better, man. I couldn't hear you in there.
Oh, that's cool, man. It's all good. So I guess I'll kind of ask the same questions. Not the same, but do you think there's room for God? And did you hear the explanation of causality?
No.
So causality is more or less like evolution. So all these things have had to have happened leading up to how things are happening now. Yeah. So if you believe in that, is there room for God there?
Not in my personal opinion. But
I think that's fair. That's how a lot of people are. I mean, it's like once you say, just kind of like how science is. It's like there's no real room for God, and people do like invoke God, like when they can't explain
find
stuff.
reasoning for it.
Yeah.
Shadow's getting ready to kill people.
Oh damn.
That sucks. The stream had issues, man.
Yeah, it's cool. It'll happen. I don't know. I feel like there's the thing about religion is it's almost a necessary evil in my opinion. Because religion gives you faith in something where there was nothing before. This is taken from a Journal of Religion and Health. They did a study on religion and how it relates to its role in the meaning of life, and it says religion can be defined as a search for meaning in ways related to the sacred. Despite the fact that the relationship between religion and meaning is intimate and complex, many people find in religious beliefs a sense of purpose, understanding, and psychological support. So they seek out that, the sacred, the unknowing, and it kind of gives them a feeling that they belong almost, it's an explanation that they can grasp and that they can understand.
Yeah.
Some would argue that it's more likely that nothing exists at all.
What do you mean?
But so if you think about it so it's more likely that nothing exists, kind of like how we were talking about the other day about the Big Bang Theory. So if nothing existed before the Big Bang Theory, why is there something from nothing?
Yeah.
How can you go from nothing to something? It doesn't make a lot of, logically we can't perceive that. We can't perceive that all this comes from absolutely nothing. And you know, some people they invoke, once again, you know, they invoke God and they invoke you know, other powers, otherworldly powers that can't be explained. I think that kind of like lends us to, you know, kind of see how the human brain works. It's like we want to find, you know, like our entire lives we like put definitions to things. We have words for stuff, and we're constantly, you know, like separating things, like putting things into categories. I think that really leads to us, you know, so like when asked if he believed in God, Einstein replied, there must be something behind the energy. So for Einstein, he saw it as a God. It's something, but you can also see it as the mind. So indeed, that something is the mind. And the most irreducible level, space and time, are defined by electromagnetic energy, which is E equals mc squared. Tells us that all matter is made up of energy. So pretty much what he's saying is everything, all matter has energy. And for Einstein, whether he believed it or not, that energy came from God, which is I guess a type of way of explaining how God could be, you know, put into causality, you know, like he's like God is just the energy. But then you also have scientists who, I mean, which is kind of, you know, it's kind of what I believe too. It's like when you invoke God into something, it just means you don't know enough about it. So that just means you need to learn more. What do you think about that?
I think that if Einstein had anything behind it, if he thought, basically the way it sounds that you put it is that he doesn't believe in a God, but he believes that there's some kind of energy behind it.
Yeah.
Something creating it. And Stephen Hawking as well, he straight up said he did not believe in a God.
Oh yeah, a lot of scientists don't believe in a God. That's just kind of their, you know, I mean, because coming from a scientific background, you don't have, you know, there's not really any use for, you have no need for a God.
So
go ahead.
Do you think we just popped up one day?
Personally, no. I think it was a long process of accidents, and you know, maybe not even accidents. Maybe just, you know, I don't claim to know anything. I'm more agnostic because I have no real. I don't know. That's kind of what I prescribe to, is I have no idea of like what it is. So there's this website. It's called Robert Lanza Biocentrism, and it's actually a book. It's a book called Biocentrism by Robert Lanza, and on the page here it has a little bit about the book. And right here he says, we scientists have looked at the world for so long that we no longer challenge its reality. Here is the universe. Our sense organs perceive atoms and galaxies to some 14 billion light years, although we can't see with the eye of reason. That the world is for us merely a bundle of sensations unified by laws which exist in our understanding. So that kind of means that we exist separately from the laws of the universe. We can't see the laws that uphold the world, and that if they are removed, the trees and the mountains and the whole universe would collapse into nothing. So it kind of says that we, as viewers of the universe, kind of almost give it meaning in that sense. So without us here, everything that happens in the world is meaningless. It's meaningless. Yeah, exactly. It's meaningless.
Well,
and that also kind of plays into quantum theory, like the whole, you know, observation changes the way atoms, you know, react, because atoms exist as waves until being observed.
But at the same time, though, even if we're not here, the trees and the mountains would still be here, so they would have, in the theory, I guess sadly, we don't even have a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, see, that goes back to the philosophical question, you know, if a tree falls in the woods, no one's around to hear it, you know, does it actually fall, does it actually make a noise, or does it even fall in the woods? Because it's like and because everything we see and everything that's happening in our brains, it's all because our brains are making that up. So when we're looking at this greenwashing stuff, that's not necessarily what's actually there. That's just what our eyes are telling us is there. So for all we know, there could be nothing happening outside. The things we touch, like we assume that there's like weight to them, and we assume that there's matter inside them. And if we break wood, there's going to be wood inside it. But that's just because all of our previous, interactions with wood tells us that, when we touch wood, when we see it, we're going to, break it up and there's going to be wood inside. But, who's to say that when nobody's touching wood, it even exists, I mean, it might exist in
so you're kind of talking
view of your mind.
You're back on, that's kind of a simulation.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely plays
graphics rendering. If you think about it, man, like, all the energy, whatever it is, neutrons or whatever in the fuck in our head is all electricity, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's all just like electronic, it's electronic impulses. So there's this theory, it's called the attention schema theory. I believe I said that correct. So from the website, it says it was developed over the past 5 years, and it may answer questions kind of dealing with that. It says the theory suggests that consciousness arises as a solution to one of the most fundamental problems facing any nervous system. Too much information constantly flows in to be fully processed. So what it's saying is that as animals and as humans living in this world, we're constantly being bombarded with signals and senses, which is kind of goes into like the whole senses thing. Like we have a lot more than just the 5 senses. We can see past vision, ultraviolet, infrared. Those are more wavelengths of light that our eyes can't see, but that exist. And the brain evolved increasingly sophisticated mechanisms for deeply processing a few select signals at the expense of others. Consciousness is the ultimate result of that evolutionary sequence. So it's saying consciousness kind of evolved as a way for all these signals to kind of be assembled as like a picture in our mind. But it also says that it's yet to be really determined, and consciousness evolved gradually over past 500 million years, and it's actually still potentially evolving. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, this might be a little bit off topic, but I think it's really interesting that everything's made of atoms, including people. So
yeah,
atoms aren't alive, but you get a bunch of them with a person, and suddenly you got life out of something that's not alive.
Yeah, I mean that's something that a lot of people can't even really wrap. I mean, I can barely wrap my head around it. Honestly, it's like strange because you see like a rock that's made up of atoms and it just sits there, and it I mean, it can be weathered, and weather reacts to weather and reacts to its environment, but it mostly just sits there its entire life. And you have something that's also made of atoms that's like us, and we're able to think and breathe and talk and communicate with other masses of atoms. It's like mind blowing, if you think about it, really. And if that's even what you believe. There's like so many beliefs of what could be.
Yep, and again, I think it all comes back to we'll never know. So
exactly. I mean, we can try to explain it, and we can try to put like we were talking about earlier, classify it as something, but it's more likely that we just never will. The Buddhists, they believe in a cycle of death and rebirth called samsara, or samsara, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, but pretty much through karma and eventual enlightenment, they hope to escape samsara and achieve nirvana. So for them, they believe in karma, which you don't know what karma is. It's pretty much, what you do, good or bad, comes back to you, more or less. And so if you do enough good in this world, through these rebirths, you'll achieve nirvana. And it's, and Buddha kind of describes it as like, kind of like living in the moment. Kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like if you live in the moment, all of your senses are connected, and your mind isn't, thinking about the future or the past. It's just you're living in the moment, and that's kind of like what animals are always doing. They're living in, they're taking all their senses and reacting to it. Whereas we've kind of evolved this way of thinking ahead, which has definitely given us some like survival advantages, but also kind of gives us that disadvantage that we can plan out. We think that we can plan out and try to change things from happening how we think that they could potentially happen.
Yeah, and sometimes there's just some things that you can't prevent. Life will
Yeah,
go
oh
bad.
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely true. But I don't know. I feel like religion is almost a necessary evil. I know we talked about this earlier, but it's like, so religion is the most. This is from that other website from earlier, the Journal of Religion and Health, and it says religion is the most comprehensive because it includes an extensive range of other sources of meaning. So your social relationships, your work, your family, achievement, personal relationships, and important values. Religion is accessible to people in the sense of contributing to global meaning through promoting doctrinal teachings and creeds, religious education, and ethical norms of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. So kind of like how in America with like Christianity, it's not just what does it mean to be alive? It talks about, going to church and loving your neighbors, loving God. It talks about, what you should do in all of these different types of situations. So your family, your social relationships, all that kind of stuff. And it really does gives you that sense of meaning where, if you were an atheist, there's really kind of no meaning to, which, I mean, we all kind of have our own meaning for why we exist, and we all kind of make that up. But I don't know.
Yep, I don't know.
No one knows. No one will ever know. And I think that's just I think that's pretty much like the whole main thing is no one will ever really know. So this is actually a quote from the Bible. It says, so it says, "You must love the Lord and God with all your heart and all your soul, all your mind. This is the first greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. All other commandments and all other demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments." And that's Matthew 22, 35, 40. So pretty much that kind of like leads into like kind of like the Buddhist way of thinking as well. It's like, love your neighbor as yourself. So we're all connected. We're all a part of this. Some people would call it like a global consciousness. We're like, I'm no different than anybody else. We're all kind of connected through this system of consciousness, although it doesn't seem that way, because growing up and when you learn language and learn all these things, you learn to separate and categorize things. But in all reality, it's all just an interconnected web. So like my existence and your existence are, they're mingled. So my decisions and how my outcome of my life happens is, not necessarily directly affected by, me meeting you and me talking to you, but, potentially it could be,
Yeah.
I mean, there's millions of things that could happen, and that could, one day I could be talking to you. We decide to go eat somewhere, and then,
So what are we eating?
What are we eating?
Yeah. We need to know.
Man, what are we eating? We do need to know. That's an important question. Tacos? You like tacos?
Yeah,
I like tacos.
I love tacos.
All right. So we're gonna go eat some tacos, and then we get to this place, we're eating some tacos, and then you say something, I ask you about, I'm like, hey, so I'm having this problem, I'm doing, I've been doing heroin for the past 12 years, even though I'm only 18 years old, and I need some advice, man. I really need to get off of heroin. And you're like, man, just heroin's bad. Here's the support group. And I go and I get clean from heroin. Which frees up my time. I go get my science degree. I invent freaking time travel because I talked to you because you talked me out of doing heroin for 12 years. This is completely this did not happen, but
then you go back in time and you stop yourself from doing heroin, and then you've created a time loop, and now you don't.
Whoa.
Now time travel was never invented, so wow.
So now you're back on heroin.
Long story short, don't do heroin.
Maybe it's just destiny that I die being addicted to heroin. I die from heroin over
and over.
Right. Which kind of leads to my next question. Do you believe in destiny? Do you believe in destiny? Not the game, but do you believe that destiny is real? We kind of talked about faith, faith a little earlier, and
no, I don't. But it's an interesting concept.
Oh yeah, I think so. There are people who will argue that. So we have the illusion of free will. People argue that we have the illusion of free will, so that all of our choices and all of the things that we, have to choose, like, vanilla, chocolate ice cream, even things as insignificant as that. They've all been, so that choice is a causality of all your previous choices. So, maybe when you were 4 or 5 years old, you had some chocolate ice cream that was freezer burn, and it just, ever since that time, you've always had that in the back of your head that chocolate ice cream tastes like shit. So, present day, you're in the freezer, you're at the store looking for whether you want to get chocolate or ice cream, and you don't consciously think, oh, that time I was 4 or 5, I ate that freezer burnt chocolate ice cream. But it's kind of, you're more likely to make the decision to get vanilla because you had those bad experiences. So it's not necessarily free will. It's just kind of like the causality of your previous actions and things that have happened to you before. You think that's possible?
Yeah.
And anything's
there's also
possible.
A possibility that you're like, I'm not getting chocolate. I had this one time I ate some freezer burnt chocolate. It's a conscious choice.
Right. You don't necessarily think about it, but it's
I'll never eat McDonald's again. Fuck.
Just like you'll never what is it? What's that called? Fireball. You'll never drink Fireball again.
Oh, I will.
That
Bad experience.
was bad, man.
or vodka after last night's stream. That was fun though. Last night was fun.
Yeah, but mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made. It's all
Worth
good.
it.
It's all good. Do you think it's possible that science could ever explain everything?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
Science can't explain love. They can within the chemicals, but
yeah. Like you said, there's explanations for, there's explanations for love, but there's not ever really any.
And they have a lot of guesses,
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people that just guess.
Is based on a theory. You can't prove chemistry at all. It's all a theory still.
Yeah, well, technically everything is evolution's theory. The fact that it's all real theories because there's no way for us to actually prove these things. You can test it and you see from example and things that have happened in the past that, yeah, of course, we're going to have, if you drink boiling hot water, it's going to burn the shit out of you, because you have experiences of that in the past. And that's kind of how science is. It's we can test things and we know things about things because it fits into our model, of our experiments. But we really have no way of knowing that, you know, the 10 millionth time we try something, we're going to get a different result. You know, it's kind of like the unpredictability and like just the chaos of you know, life, of existence.
Hold up the robot, we have some technical difficulties.
The VR has died.
What happened?
I don't know.
Well,
it's okay. Just keep talking, man. We're fine.
Oh, are we back on? Are we good?
No, I mean, but we're loading back in. We're in a little office.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Cool beans.
So, cool beans. Cool StreamBeanz, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So according to the Bashongo people of Central Africa, before us there was only darkness, water, and the great god Bumba. One day, Bumba, I might be saying this incorrectly, in pain from a stomach ache, vomited up the sun. The sun evaporated some of the water, leaving land. Still in discomfort, Bumba vomited up the moon, the stars, and then the leopard, the crocodile, the turtle, and finally humans. So that's a creation myth. There's hundreds of thousands of creation myths that are like that, which kind of represents like the knowledge and the thinking of people at that time. It also kind of says that we've always had the desire to know, you know, where we come from and what the meaning of things are. So we kind of take what we know and things around us, and we create these meanings, and we create these religions and these beliefs of why we're here, why we got here, and it helps us to, you know, deal with the harsh realities of life and the struggling, and you know, you're losing people, and you know, you're dying, and people are dying, and it's just constant suffering. But when you can give meaning to that, and you can give meaning to the suffering, it alleviates that pain just a little bit. And I think that's really important.
I didn't do anything.
Why are you over there? Am I in the wrong spot?
Yeah, you're in the right spot.
What are you doing?
Nothing. I'm sitting down.
Were you sneaking up on me?
Yeah.
Sorry for punching you.
Man. So is it just black screen right now?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Oh, is it?
Damn, I think so, yeah.
I've been playing.
Did it not load back up?
No, it's good. I've been playing in the hub.
What?
It crashed, and I was at the hub. Shooting
Gotcha.
a bow. So I'm going back now. We're good.
Sorry for the black screen.
It's alright. They should be able to see my webcam still.
Yeah, your webcam's still there. For sure.
For sure.
There it is.
Hello, peoples.
Hello.
Look at me. Okay. Oh, fuck. What the fuck?
Well, let me know when you're ready.
I'm in.
Back up.
I'm in.
You're in?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, sorry.
It was showing black screen. No, you're good. No worries.
I'm honestly really confident with the bow and arrow.
What?
I'm really good with the bow and arrow.
Or so he thinks.
Alright, so I have two more questions. Do you think we're alone in the universe?
No, we're not. We'd be silly to say there's nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of narcissistic to believe we are. Especially kind of seeing how things have unfolded in the past. We're constantly learning and seeing more and more things about the world, and finding more and more species that exist than we ever even thought possible. And I think it would be just selfish to say that we're alone in the universe.
But I don't think it would be like what you would expect, or next some green people. It would be like mold. That's an alien. I mean, it's alive. There was mold on another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think more or less that they could be any color, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's really that's kind of like we were talking about. It's like, you know, aliens can have really, they can be anything. They could be single cell, multi cell. It's like life is life, you know. But that's to say, you know, if we do believe in aliens, where does that put religion? You know, because all these religions talk about humans as being kind of like, not all of them, but you know, a lot of them. They talk about humans kind of being like the center. You know, humans are at a higher level of consciousness than aliens are. And so, what happens if we bring aliens into the mix? And you know, they could possibly have millions and millions more years of evolution on top, and they could be on a different consciousness level than even we are. Does that make religion invalid, or is there? Do you think there's room for that? Do you think it's possible that we could even, could religion even change to kind of fit that, to fit that model?
Whatever beans.
Hey, Buzzkill.
Yeah.
Is your game audio going through your desktop?
Maybe.
Sounding super loud and gagey.
Here, tag me in.
No, I gotta fix it through here. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, technical issues. Streaming VR is kind of a pain in the ass, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been having issues after issues after issues.
Alright, is it off or is it still on?
Still on.
Game
not sure,
it's like super.
I'm turning it off and it's not working. If I kill that man. See,
It's okay. We might just end the show. That was my last question. You guys have anything else to add?
Nah, that's good, man. We'll kill it.
Bananas, guys. Bananas.
Bananas. So, meaning of life is bananas. Existence is bananas. If you watch this post live and you have any questions, we're sure to talk about this topic again. So, if you want to be on the show, and that good stuff, just let us know. Comment below. Definitely love to have you.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys.
Yeah, sorry. We'll try to smooth it out next time. Maybe we won't do VR anymore. But it's so fun!
You can do it, man. It just takes a while to work out the kinks.
Yeah, we'll get it, guys.
I think it's where it crashed, man, but... Alright, I'm gonna kill it.
Alright, bye guys. Thanks for watching.
See ya.